Welcome back, upper tier community, to the upper tier podcast brought to you by the Dynamo Podcast Network. And tonight we bring to you our Monday mashup show. And tonight's show is sponsored by Hogan Elite Trophy Hire. How you doing, Mark?
How's it going, lads?
And also by Ella's Toys and Collectibles. Dean, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Head over to both those Facebook pages now if you want to avail of a discount. Ella's offering our viewers and subscribers 10% off, and Mark will hook you up with some fine silverware there for any events that you may have going on in the future. Graham, how we doing?
All good.
Good. Anto?
What's the story, Niall?
All good?
Not too bad, yeah. Not too bad.
Con, how we doing?
What's the crack, boys?
All good. Excellent. Craig?
All good, Niall, yourself?
Brilliant. Excellent. Dane? Already locked and loaded. So on tonight's show, we're going to be having a quick run back, having a look at the weekend's action. We're going to be looking towards the Champions League and the Europa League, and we're also going to be looking at some of the hot topics that we posted in our trailer yesterday. So we're going to be covering the Champions League proposed changes. We're going to be having a look at social media in terms of the racial abuse that's going on with players and stuff like that at the moment. We're going to be looking at the Premier League's, or the FA, I should say, No Room to Racism action plan that they released. And then we're going to be discussing Liverpool, and we're going to be talking, is it time to man up and stop talking about injuries and COVID and no fans and all that kind of stuff. And we're also going to be talking about Brentford's decision. They had discussions together to no longer take the knee in support of Black Lives Matter. And we'll get into all that later on in the show. So where do we begin? Anto, West Brom 1, Man United 1. Talk to me.
It's very bleak, isn't it? Although the league position doesn't say so, it is bleak. Maybe not as bleak as God losing 3-1, you know. It's a draw. It maybe could have been more. It probably could have been more, but I think that fella Diagne, I don't know. I think he likes the face of Maguire and Lindelof, doesn't he? His hand was all over them, wasn't it? But I don't know, man. It's annoying. It's really annoying. Again, it's sloppy. Apart from the goal from Hernandez, I don't know. There was nothing really there to be excited about.
Pogba was a huge loss, wasn't he? What did you think?
Absolutely.
Mark, what did you think? Pogba missing?
Yeah, we're sort of turning into a one-man team, aren't we? You know, we're relying on Fernandes again. Yesterday was the type of game that Fernandes or Martial should have took by the scruff of the neck and just went for it, like, you know what I mean? And two of them have been missing all season. Again, we're talking about the centre-half pairing of Maguire and Lindelof, and you could see what West Brom were trying to do yesterday. 20 seconds in, they had a throw. Your man lines up a big, long throw into the box that you usually do with, you know, the last few minutes of the game. And they were there to test them. And obviously, their first cross of the game, they score, albeit, he was over Lindelof, but Lindelof letting them bully him into that situation as well. You know, that's a boy. But West Brom could have had 3 or 4 goals when you look at it, you know?
Yeah. And of course, Maguire was very unlucky at the end by hitting the post with his effort as well. You know, the talk going around today was that you might be going in for Sergio Ramos. As a Liverpool fan, I'd love that to happen.
Listen, that happens every year. He links himself with us just to get a better deal at Madrid. Like, I wouldn't listen to any of that. You know, there's a talk of a man in Seville is a Kunde or something like that. He's a young lad. He looks pacey. He looks explosive. He looks aggressive. I think they're looking for 60 million, but I think in the market nowadays, I think that's good for a young centre half, you know?
Yeah, Madrid are in trouble at the moment. Apparently, if they want to keep Ramos and Varane, who's out of contract in a year, and they're also talking about bringing in Alaba as well, they have to find 45 million in wages. So the talk is either Varane or Ramos is going out the door. My guess is it will be Ramos, not Varane. But we'll see what happens there. It'd be interesting. If United sign him, that'd be another trophy out of the way that they can't win, that fair play trophy.
But I don't know what Anthony thinks, but I just wanted to mention him. I know he's mentioned during the week, but Scott McTominay has come on leaps and bounds over the last 10, 11 months. Like, he's been unbelievable. You know, I have to tip my hat off, and we're talking about Fernandes all the time, but he's one that doesn't mention. He has a thankless task of sitting in front of the back four, breaking down play, starting attacks. I just think I have to tip my hat off to him. He's been excellent over the last few months,
he is becoming one of the few very reliant players in the team that we have at the moment.
Yeah.
100%.
It kind of reminds you of what Carrick and Fletcher used to do back in the day, and all that took away. So fair play.
Definitely.
And he didn't have a great start to the season either.
No, he didn't. Didn't get many starts. Yeah,
he's grown into that role certainly. Graham,
yes.
Talk to me. Man City 3, Tottenham, Mexican hat zip.
Nilo.
What happened?
Yes, same old story. It's basically the same stuff as the FA Cup game against Everton. It's just sloppy. It's like Man City. I know Man City are like they're a great attacking side and all that, but like they were looking at the Everton game and going, Spurs defenders, they're not great. You might get a sloppy goal here and there. So that's what they did. You didn't really see that much of an attack. They knew that they were going to get a chance that we were going to make a mistake, and they got 3 goals out of mistakes. It was just shocking stuff. It was shocking. The
one time you want Lloris to show up, huh?
Yeah.
What more can I say?
It's the fans. The fans blaming Mourinho for his, like I said every week, his style, change his lineup. But it's just the players. I said it every week. It's the players not stepping up. It's like he was bringing in Tanzania for the Man City game. Like it was dreadful stuff. It's since Vertonghen left us when he went out of contract, we hadn't had that leader in defence like other teams do. Like Liverpool have Van Dijk, United might have whatever Maguire they say, but we never have a true leader anymore. Like we're relying on Kane and Son every week, and like you're looking for the goals out with them, and if they're not on the sides, the others will go. Who's going to score today? Nobody.
I'm just checking there now. You did mention Harry Maguire and leader in the same sentence, yeah? I just want to confirm that now, yeah?
Well, yes. Well, you never know. Teams have, say, leaders every week, a different leader every week. You might have an attacking, but...
Can I just step in there regarding Harry Maguire and the word leader? There's my 22-week-old young flip. He's more of a leader than Harry Maguire.
He'll be leading your wallet around for the next 20 years. Don't worry about that. Con, let's switch. Everton and Fulham. Fulham going to Goodison and winning 2-0.
Yeah. I was talking about it last week. It's all just about fucking energy for me, man. And I think I said last week that we'd beat Spurs. We beat Spurs. It went to extra time, 5-4. Absolutely unbelievable game. Tit for tat. Great goals, great action. But like 200 minutes is going to, or 100. What is it? 90 minutes and another 30.
120 minutes.
120 minutes. Yeah. And then with a squad that is already depleted with injuries, and then to come along and play a Fulham team who have been playing very well in the last few weeks and are just fighting for their life to get out of the relegation zone and have fresh legs. That, and then the fact that fucking Ancelotti's gaff had been fucking broken into a day or so before it. On top of all that shit adds to the kind of the negative energy that kind of, I suppose, showed itself on the pitch. We were lethargic. Our top scorer, Calvin Lewin, was injured. Alan's still out injured, and he had to play a lot of the same players that he played against Spurs in that match. And I think a great and Fulham were unreal as well. They were actually unreal. I don't know if anyone watched it. They were like fucking. Yeah. They were up for that game. They were full of energy. They got in our face. They closed us down. They created chances. The guy who got the both goals, he looks like a player. He looks like a serious player if he keeps playing the way he was running in between the lines, creating chances as well as taking chances. No, we weren't at the races. Hold the hands up, 100%.
Well, your man for Fulham, he's well used to English football. I remember him on the Sunderland documentary. He was banging in goals every week. Yeah, he was doing really well, like, you know.
Rush magic, yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard one to call because you would expect, like, I mean, a lot of the players there at Everton that you would expect to show up just didn't show up on the night.
Yeah.
And you can have one of those off nights, but it's just it's always a killer. It was the same with us with Leicester, and we'll get onto that now in a minute. Like, that door opens up for you. And then you slam and shut yourself, like, you know, you just don't go in there and do it, you know, do the
Well, we 3 games in hand. We're 3 points behind Liverpool. We 3 games in hand. And our next 2 games are fucking Man City at home, who, to be honest, are unbeatable at the moment. You know, they're absolutely unbeatable at the moment. No, but it wouldn't surprise me if Everton then come along and get an unlikely result against Man City, because when we play the top teams like we did with United a couple of weeks ago, and anytime we've even played Liverpool in the last couple of years, we're a pain in the hole. Like, we're a pain in the hole of all those sides, and we can get results against them. We lift our game, but kind of like the way Liverpool are at the moment now as well. Just, you know, in games that the level has to be high all the time. The level drops 10%, and at that, when you're playing at those very, very high standards, even a drop of 1 or 2% is massive, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. The league's been going that way all season, really, when you think about it. Everyone's been sort of like taking points off each other, and games that you would expect to win, you're dropping points in, and games that you wouldn't expect to win, you're going and getting a draw or a result in it. You know what I mean? So it's crazy, crazy times in the league at the moment. Dean, Leicester 3, Liverpool 1, 10 minutes of madness.
Again. I don't even know where to start. Like, I'm just kind of like, if you don't laugh, you'll cry at this stage. I don't know what can we do? It's like anything that can go wrong this season is going wrong. 2 weeks on the trot there. I don't know whether was there a shout given by Alisson, like, I'm coming out to clear house. Did Alisson need to come out that far? Thiago, I think, as we're doing so bad, he's being magnified now as he's not sitting into the system as well as we hoped he would. Talk about lack of commitment, players in house fighting, stories going around that Alisson and Robbo are at each other's throats. Surely it can only get better. I don't know. I said last week after the City game, like, we're trying to pick up positives and all, but just like every weekend, confidence is it's gone into a surplus now. We can't see. Tomorrow night is a massive test. Leipzig will be coming out all guns blazing tomorrow night. They play great attacking football. Air defence is shot to pieces. I know I said last week that maybe just fuck the 2 boys in a centre back, but I don't know. Is tomorrow night the night where you put Henderson back into the middle? As I said last week, it seems to be a recurring thing where we're missing Fabinho and Henderson in the middle of the park, but like, we're genuinely just everything is just walking through the middle. I think was it second goal or third goal? No, the Harvey Barnes goal against Leicester. Salah loses the ball in the middle of the park and doesn't even attempt to run back. Your man just saunters on. 2 seconds later, there's a goal, and you're saying to yourself, where's that fucking hunger? I know when things are going wrong, confidence is rock bottom. But like, where's that fucking hunger and passion gone from last year, where if you lost the ball, God love you, because you're 3 or 4 fellas willing to take your life just to get the ball back. It's just, as I said, I know confidence is rock bottom, but something drastic needs to change. Fingers crossed it's tomorrow night. I'm going to be listening to United fans and Everton fans, whatever, shining on about them.
Dane, talk to me about Liverpool. I thought Kabak had a really good game for about 70 minutes. I thought he was doing really well, and then the Echo go and give him a 5 rating, and I was thinking, Alisson came out and basically Jackie Chan this lad out of nowhere, and like, he's getting a 5 rating, and the chap basically did nothing wrong. He was about to deal with the ball. And the next thing, this big Brazilian lad out of nowhere, I thought I was watching the Six Nations. What was you thinking?
I mean, there's talk there that he didn't shout at Alisson not to come, and that's a lot of bollocks. Alisson has made And I was on here defending Alisson last week going, yeah, like you can't. It's fucking shocking the past 3 weeks. Absolutely fucking shocking. And then you also have the argument there that you thrown Kabak into the fucking mist of everything that's going on. And they're giving them, like, they're fucking into a team with no defence.
Yeah, I think it's hard to sort of dissect it down, really, because I can't imagine the new guy into the team turning around and giving Alisson the show somehow, you know. Alisson sprinting off his line like the ultimate warrior about to clothesline this lad into hell. Like, you know what I mean? Craig, what was your thinking on the game?
Yeah, it's similar to what the first Dean said, you know, where is the time, or even you said in your intro, when is the time that the people we do have available are going to step up and dig us out of the fucking situation? They're on good money, they're playing for Liverpool at the end of the day. It's all well and good when we have our first 11 and the lads can take a free wage on the fucking bench. But now they don't, and we need them more than ever. I kind of agree with Dean tomorrow as well. Tomorrow is going to be very, very difficult, even for your first 11. You know, they have very good players going forward, like Sabitzer, Paulson has a lot of pace. They're going to come and they're going to try and hurt us a lot. And going back to the Leicester game, obviously I talked to you and I hadn't seen much of it, but we were all right from what I gathered. You know, we were fine. Firmino's assist was amazing. You wouldn't think that was a fella out of form doing that and laying up for Salah like that. And then you have 10 minutes of absolute craziness. I couldn't believe it when I actually seen it back. Just 10 minutes of absolute madness, like gone down the drain. I seen Henderson and Thiago actually having a bit of a spat as well. I don't know what that was down to. I don't know if Henderson was kind of maybe getting him into, like, you know, press. But again, I agree with Dean as well. Salah loses the ball in the midfield. It's not like we're 4-1 up and it's like, fuck it, it's all right. Like, nobody was chasing that. One ball through, one ball to Harvey Barnes and he was in. The Alisson situation, I don't know myself. I know he wasn't in view of me TV when I seen it. And all of a sudden he fucking just comes out and maybe he sensed a bit of untrust in Kabak. I don't know, like, I kind of agree with you, Niall. I think Kabak would have dealt with it. And if he was having a good game up to that, then there'd be no reason to come out. You know, you'd be happy enough that he's having a good game in front of you, that he'll deal with it. But I do think other people need to step up. We don't have amazing, great depth, but we do have players who are internationals. We do have players who have previous experience in Europe. And they're just not fucking cutting it, I don't think, anyway.
That Leicester team are good anyway. Like, I don't think anyone's giving that credit to that Leicester side.
Regardless of their 11, you know, it was always going to be difficult. The 3 players who actually scored are, you know, 3 of the best in the league, to be fair, including Harvey Barnes. He's outstanding.
Harvey Barnes is class, yeah.
I think
I just add to that. Sorry.
Yeah, I just think Liverpool are a kind of, it's kind of showing Liverpool up to being a kind of, like, they really are a one-man team when you think about it, you know, because like since Van Dijk is gone, all confidence has gone out of that Liverpool squad. It has all, like, you know, when he'll come back, they'll be like a Rolls Royce again. But like, all confidence has gone out, and they're all saying that, oh, we've got Henderson, we've got Salah, we've got all these world-class players. But like, Howard, like, you're not world-class unless you can actually control stuff. The minute Leicester scored that goal on Saturday, the whole team's head fell off onto the ground, and they were like a bunch of, like, I was loving watching it, to be honest, man. I was actually loving it. That whole team capitulated. That Spanish fella, Thiago, is it?
Thiago.
Like, he's undoubtedly a world-class footballer. But the way Liverpool were successful last year and the year beforehand, was getting that ball through that middle third as quickly as possible, and then once it was lost, it was getting it back and getting it forward to that front 3 again. Even if it's only a second or 2 seconds, he takes that little bit extra out of it. He's a world-class player, but I don't think he suits Liverpool. I really don't. And I also just on the point, I just think Leicester are a very underrated side as well. Actually, they're the second best team at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish second.
I think really quickly.
Just on that, lads, just regarding Cornelius there, what he's saying about, he was so happy about Liverpool being shit, basically, and Van Dijk being out of the team and everyone else just falls. No, on a serious matter, right? Yeah, Leicester, we only talked about this the other night, how good Leicester are. Look what they did to see. Liverpool were so comfortable in that game versus Leicester. We didn't look under threat whatsoever. Like, 2 games in a row. Same with City. We were comfortable in that game too. We were having opportunities. We've shot ourselves in the foot there. But I agree with 95% of the stuff Cornelius said there. When you talk about, like, they're a one-man team. try putting James Rodriguez and Alan as your centre halves for the rest of the season, and come back to me, and we'll have a serious discussion. All right?
Well, I think,
you undoubtedly are a one-man team, though, because my point actually is that if you weren't, you'd have leaders in your current squad who would be able to, like Jordan Henderson.
Centre back, sadly.
We have plenty of leaders in the team.
But like, why aren't they leading then?
You can't do it like NPC.
How are they not leading if they're playing our position? Playing our position is great short term. Long term, in the toughest league in the world, against some of the best strikers and attacking midfielders in the world. Long term,
I think if we had Henderson,
it doesn't work anywhere long term. You take out your two best midfielders, put them into centre half, and then expect Thiago to come into a system. You expect Milner, who he's 35 now. He's old as fuck now. Curtis Jones, I don't think he knows how to defend it well. You take your two best midfielders and put them into centre half, and you've just free run through the middle of the park. That's going to happen at every club.
Yeah,
but on that
leading comes in many ways, though. Like, I mean, I'm not talking like you can lead by action, but you can lead by organization. You can slow down a game. You can fucking roll down onto the ground, hold your knee, stop the game from going. There was like 7 minutes. The game was turned on its head in 7 minutes. Van Dijk, if he was there, wouldn't I'm not being critical of Liverpool. Like, obviously, I don't want Liverpool to win any games ever, but they're a great side. They're a fantastic football side, and I hold my hands up. They actually are. Like, I'm not saying they're a shit side, but I'm saying they at the moment. And they have no leader that can calm things down, that can go hold the fucking fort here like Van Dijk. And that to me kind of says, do you know what? With all the players, all the hype that likes of Henderson gets, the likes of fucking Salah gets, Firmino, all this, it's not worth a knob of goat shit if you can't defend your fucking 1-0 lead with a free kick, or else even, okay, that goal goes in, just calm things down, get, control it, don't let the heads fall off in the next 7 minutes. But I do think Liverpool are a solid side, but, at the moment, they're like...
Lads, if you're looking for a leader, you're more than welcome to have Harry Maguire, no problem at all.
I would take Ramos first.
Just on that with Dean and Craig there as well, it is only in the last 4 or 5 games that we've seen it fell apart, though. Before that, we were playing fairly okay. We were doing well. The defence was good. Henderson, Firmino was working. You had Joel Matip there as well. So... like, it is only the past 4 or 5 games, but obviously something's happened in the team. And you're seeing that more and more obvious in the past 3 games.
There's been trouble really since the Brighton game, to be honest. There's a lot of games there now that, whatever 11 you put out there, you should be able to do. And like, I give all these teams credit, but when you're talking about Liverpool, if you're at that level, as Con says, if you have leaders on the pitch, you should be doing the job against Brighton. You shouldn't be letting Big Sam get the better of you with West Brom. You shouldn't be letting Burnley take your record away in Anfield. You shouldn't be, like, if there is leaders out there, you shouldn't be letting those things happen. You should be disgusted that those things happen and want to put it right. And that's really the essence of it. Is there's a massive lack of confidence in the team in every single position, and it's leading to people doing crazy stuff. Like, think about it. The only reason Alisson came out to volley that ball away and take control was to put himself back out there to try and make up for the previous week's mistakes. That's the only reason he went out to do that, to put himself out there and say, look, I'm back, it wasn't an issue. And then he made a holy blunder of it again and caused, like that mistake really cost us the game when you think about it. You know what I mean? It wasn't, forget about the free kick. Anyone can give away a free kick and it goes through a load of bodies into the back of the net. But I think, as Con said, you have to sit back, reorganise. Hendo should be tearing those lads asunder. Now, I know he got stuck into Thiago, but you really got to be saying to all those guys, lads, get this together. Let's go. This is us. We're Liverpool. We're the defending champions. We want to defend that crown. Instead, they're just rolling over. Look at the goals. Like, even look at the goals that they're giving.
No, but there's an argument to be made there on it, though, as well. We've performed at such a high level the past 3 years. Eventually, you're going to burn out. Eventually, these lads are going to burn out. And you're seeing that with City last season, where City completely burned out. And obviously, you wouldn't want it to happen this season. But it has happened in a massive way. And you're seeing that now. You're seeing that the Aston Villa game, we lost 7-2. And you're kind of like, wait, okay.
Yeah, but you got to remember in that game as well, Van Dijk played in that game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got to look at that as well. But I mean, the other thing about it is there's a number of guys there that are fairly fresh as well. Like, you look at Ox-Chamberlain, who's fairly fresh, comes on the pitch, absolutely doesn't do a thing.
That's
Not
what
a
I mean.
thing. An
That's what I
absolute waste of time. And then you've Curtis Jones on the pitch there, who's absolutely busting a gut to try and make things happen. Arguably one of our best midfielders this season, without a shadow of a doubt. And the guy is getting whipped off at 70 minutes all the time, like. And no matter how he's playing.
And then you're putting on Shaqiri as well. And
you're putting on Shaqiri and you're expecting him to do a job. His confidence is shot because he knows the club don't really want him there or whatever it is. You have Origi coming on, which is basically like a pilgrimage because that lad is still living off those last minute goals that he scored and stuff like that. But that lad has forgotten where the goal is. I think that lad is training on pitches where the goals are lying on the ground because he really hasn't got a clue where the net is.
On talking about players there, just to Craig and Dan real quick. Sorry, no. Yeah. Trent Alexander-Arnold.
But Trent was having a good game the other day against Leicester.
He lost the ball 48 times or something during the game.
Yeah, but listen, that's incomparable to what the whole team is doing that across the whole pitch. You know what I mean? But Trent didn't have that bad a game against Leicester, in fairness to him. You know what I mean? So you got to look at that. But anyway, listen, we're going to move on and have a look at the European football because we're going to bring a bit of positivity back here because obviously Man City fans didn't come on tonight to cheer themselves on, and Arsenal fans didn't come on either to cheer themselves on. And we heard West Ham have won, so that's depressing enough. So we'll talk about the Champions League. So we're looking forward. This is a real week of a festival of football, really, for us. We're absolutely spoiled. Between the fixtures in the Premiership, Con alluded to Everton playing Man City. I hope you absolutely murder them. And then
I prefer to win on Saturday.
Be a stretch to do both, wouldn't it?
I'll take it.
Yeah. So obviously Liverpool are playing Leipzig, and it looks like both these fixtures are going to be away. So it's not like we have the opportunity to bring them back to Anfield to one of those great European nights because during COVID at the moment that doesn't exist anymore. But the toy of this week really is Barcelona versus PSG, isn't it? Outstanding game, you would think, and we are the kiss of death on this show, remember? So I'm going to say I think there should be bags of goals. This could end up being another 0-0, but I hope not. But it should be an excellent game. Porto versus Juventus. Again, you would expect Juventus to have too much for Porto, although Porto have been outstanding in Europe this year. But Juventus is really the Ronaldo show, you know what I mean? And I think they would have too much for Porto. And especially with Ronaldo going back to Portugal, he'll want to look the part,
Make a statement.
Absolutely. Sevilla versus Dortmund, again, is, it's kind of one of those toys, Sevilla normally very strong at home. Dortmund, who are going through a major transition. But it'll be interesting to see.
The Gladbach manager is confirmed for the end of the season. It'd be interesting to see if he takes some of them players across to Dortmund or if they're going to go elsewhere. Some good players in Dortmund.
He'll definitely take a couple of players with him because the likes of Haaland and all are going to be shipped out. So
Zakaria or Plie or Norhouse, a couple of them mentioned. Thuram as well. There's some decent players in there.
Yeah, but again, it looks like, for tantalising fixtures, really, for our midweek football. Then we move on to the Europa League, and we talk about Real Sociedad versus United. Mark,
sorry, what's the Europa League?
Some competition on Thursday night.
It's the UEFA Cup. You had a Mickey Mouse treble winning it one year. I can't remember what year it was.
It's when the UEFA Cup and the Cup Winners' Cup went off and got married, and they had a kid, and the kid became the Europa League. But Mark, Real Sociedad, a serious toy.
It's going to be tough. When the draw was made, they were actually top of La Liga. Obviously, I think they dropped to 6th or something now. But they've David Silva in there, Januzaj's in there. And what makes them even more dangerous now is in the past month, they've been knocked out of the 2 Spanish domestic cups, the Copa del Rey and the Spanish Super Cup. So this is the last opportunity that they have to win a trophy this season is the Europa League. So that makes them very dangerous,
Very cagey toy, Anto. What do you think? Probably no Pogba again.
Well, maybe not, but maybe not. Do you question if you can actually get past Real Sociedad with the talent they have?
Oh, he's actually very good.
When you're top of La Liga, when you have teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, although they're not playing great, but when you have them teams in there and you're top of the league for how many weeks? You know what I mean? have much faith. Like this is hard to come on Niall, nearly every week and say that I have no faith in my own squad, but it's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's going to be a good match. It's going to be a good match. It'll be tough. It'll be tough.
It's certainly one of the tougher toys. Graham,
Yeah.
Wolfsburg away.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Again, I don't know much about the Austrian league. It's the way we've been playing lately. I presume he's gonna start the strongest side he can, but on paper, we're playing again on Sunday, and we're playing West Ham away, so it's a hard match. But he might start the strongest side, and then probably take them off after an hour. I don't know how many subs you're allowed in Europe these days. Is it still 5?
I think it's 5. Yeah.
Yeah, so he might take majority of them off, and being the likes of Lucas Moura and all them all on like after an hour, and save the others for West Ham on Sunday.
It's not going to be an easy toy. I don't see him being in a position to be able to take players off at all.
No,
I mean, you know, it's a real game where Kane needs to show up. Yeah,
well, it's basically it's an away game for both teams, because I think it's in Hungary. It's in a neutral ground, so it's going to be 50-50, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. All right. Prague versus Leicester. Con, you're speaking up Leicester there. I presume you'd expect Leicester to do a job on these guys, would you?
I really like the way they're playing. I really like the way they're set up. They kind of remind me of the way Liverpool were playing in their pomp about 2 years ago, when they were neck and neck going for the title with City. Like they've got fierce energy. Like even in that Liverpool match at the weekend, Liverpool were playing absolutely savage until Leicester equalised. But Leicester were always dangerous, and they can score so quickly, and it could a variety of players can score for them as well. They're scoring from midfield. They're scoring up like Vardy is always like lethal. So I'm not so sure about the Champions League. You know, I think probably I think they will get through this tie. I don't know about the back end. It's exciting to see them there, though. It really is exciting. And like even when they won the league a couple of years ago, everybody thought they might, that time when Ranieri, it was just a very special league. But everybody just expected them to kind of capitulate and kind of fade away. But they're hanging around. And they play exciting, fast, swift, counter-attacking football, but not only counter-attacking. Brendan Rodgers he's got a great football brain. Now he'd be the first to tell you that himself anyway. But they changed the system. They often just tweak it like slightly, and no, I like them. I think they're exciting to watch as well. I think they'll get through the group. They'll get through this leg. How far they'll go beyond that, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it's whether they can keep that energy going right till the end of the season. But certainly, if you're a neutral, like Leicester's a lovely team to watch play football with that counter attacking speed, and Tillemans there and all. Like it's Maddison, Tillemans, Vardy, Soyuncu at the back and all. Like there, and even Kasper Schmeichel in goals. But they really
even Johnny Evans is unreal there. Like
Johnny Evans has been incredible.
Wilfred indeed.
Yeah, indeed. Well. But even speaking of Johnny Evans, I mean, United would give their left arm at the moment to have Johnny Evans back, wouldn't they, when you think about it?
He's exactly the type of player that I was talking about there earlier. Like he's the type of guy that will calm the shit down if something happens. He's a voice of reason. Yeah. He's able to use his experience. He's a great footballer. Sorry, now I'm talking too much. I shut up there now.
No. I take Roy Evans even at this stage.
So then it's finished up then with Benfica versus Arsenal. I would assume Arsenal will go there and do a professional job, but you just never know with Arsenal. But it was good to see Aubameyang back as well. I'm netting a hat-trick there yesterday against Leeds, which is not an easy thing to do. But he looked like he was back to a bit of form, and that the personal stuff he had been dealing with, Iglesias obviously put it behind him now, and it's good to see him back. So yeah, let's move on to some of the hot topics there that we want to look at this week. The first one is the Champions League proposed changes. I don't know if y'all got to take a look at this, but I read down through it. They're 32 participants to 36. They're going to move it to 10 games guaranteed instead of 6. They're talking about 3 group slots, which will be given to teams that qualify through the elite system or something like that. And they're talking about the 4th extra slot going to France, because I think France at the moment only is 2. A single league table, opponents based on pre-season's rankings. There'll be a round of 16 where the top 8 in the league qualify, and then the bottom 16 go into a playoff to fill up the round of 16 with the final 8 teams. But the big thing for me that I think is a real worry in football at the moment, and UEFA passed it off there the other day by saying, sure, it's only another 4 games each team have to find. And I'm going, only another 4 games. Like it's nothing. So they're talking about the group stages going from 180 games instead of 96. And I just felt with the whole thing, I failed to see in it where the benefit is to football, and that the only benefit is to UEFA milking in more money from broadcast and revenue rights. That's the only thing I could see in it. Mark, what you thinking?
Yeah, I'd be the same as you, Noel. It's all about money. It's like the World Cup as well, adding in the extra teams. They're thinking of more revenue from all the different countries around the world that are going to be participating in it, you know. From a football point of view and a manager's point of view, it's a headache that no one needs at the moment, especially with all the injuries, the amount of games that we're catching up over COVID and stuff like that. It's way too much football for them to be playing.
Dane, tell me how you fit in another 4 games in that schedule.
Simple. Cancel the League Cups in each country. Let's be real, or just leave the League Cups to the lower leagues.
Yeah.
Take out the Premier League. So you have like La Liga, Serie A, the Premier League, Scottish Premier League. Take them out of the equation. Leave the League Cups to the lower ranking teams. I know. If you win the League Cup, is a Europa League spot.
Yeah.
Fucking give someone in the Championship, League 1 or League 2, the opportunity to like, you know what I mean?
I think the problem with that decision is you lose out on a lot of broadcasting money in terms of, like, let's suppose if you had in there, no disrespect them, let's suppose you had Norwich in there instead of, say, Arsenal, or instead of, say, we'll say United, you know, but, like, you know, if you don't have them in there and you only have, say, Norwich or Brentford, or, you know, no disrespect to them, you're not going to gain the same broadcasting revenue. Like, the TV companies are not going to pay for that, you know. So where you gain on one hand, you suffer in the other hand. And again, we spoke last week on the episode and we said, like, you know, with these cups, you know, are they really starting to come to, you know, is European football really trying to kill them off when you think about it? You know what I mean?
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is. UEFA and FIFA couldn't give a fuck about anything like that. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's all about the Benjamins. Look at the Qatar World Cup. That's going to be an absolute shambles. And teams are really, leagues are going to suffer due to that World Cup taking place when it's taking place. Players are going to suffer. And I think a lot of people like forget that this, at the end of this season, after such a long season with no preseason, you've got the Euros, you've got the Olympics. Like, so if everyone's thinking, let's just get this season out of the way, next year everyone's back to normal. Next year is going to be worse because you've got the Euros, players coming back. I guarantee you a lot of players are going to pick up little injuries at the Euros there. And then you've got the likes of, there's talk of Salah going to the Olympics. Like, players are going to get very little of a holiday period and a pre-season going into next season. So next season's going to be a disaster. And this is all building up towards that World Cup in Qatar. Like, in the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to see players with serious injuries, very, very bad injuries, careers being cut short, all because of, it's all about the money.
Craig, the one thing I was excited about was if they go with this league table format, we're going to see a lot of big teams playing against each other earlier in the competition, which could be exciting for us, the viewers and fans. What was your thinking on that?
I think it's a positive and a negative, isn't it? Sometimes you kind of look forward to, you know, when the groups are settled, what way it's going to pan out, and you like looking at the draw and then talking about the draw, like, oh, Chelsea got Atletico and stuff like that. I think when you take that away and you put into a league table, does it take away that kind of feeling, that looking, you know, the excitement and stuff, as in you kind of look at the table and go, are they playing them in a week? Like, really in the group stage kind of format. I think I would rather the old way where, you know, it's drawn out a ball and you could get Bayern Munich or you could get, and then you have the 2 legs to look forward to. I do agree with Dean as well. I think like the players already haven't got a balanced period because we had no pre-season, and if it's only going to spiral on, 4 extra games, more travel, more expense, games on Sunday, and then if it is 4 extra games, does that mean it's like you play less of a gap between your next group game? Is it like it cuts that down as well?
I don't know. It's just he came across as saying that he couldn't understand what the big deal was, that teams just had to organise an extra 4 fixtures, and I was there going.
And especially as Dean said as well with the League Cup and all, what are you going to do? Just not sure. Like you have to put that's a midweek fixture as well.
The one thing I was shocked, Anto, was that none of the teams out there, none of the bigger teams out there at the moment, if you like, not any of them that were represented at the meeting, went against the proposal, which I was kind of shocked as well, especially in the current climate.
Yeah, you kind of would, because you would think that they'd be worried about the amount of injuries with this going, with this COVID and no fans in the stadium, with revenue constantly being lost, with those extra 4 matches is all that is. They're going to be under some pressure because of the injuries. If they haven't got that big squad, then they're going to struggle. Nearly every team is going to struggle badly in the new format. It's going to be disaster. It really is, because like I was saying, you need the players. You need the top players. All of the top teams all want the top players. If you haven't got the revenue to go fork out for those players to sort out this new format, to make sure that you win the Champions League, which is what you want to do, what happens? Like someone said, careers cut short. You could end up with half of your team, if not like Liverpool, the majority of your team injured.
I suppose, Con, as well, when you look at it, because you're going to have such a strong set of fixtures through this league table, you're not going to have that opportunity that you would normally have in like a Champions League group stage, where like you've got 2 really good teams in each group, the way the seeding works, and then you've got 2 sort of, lesser teams, let's say, for, to throw success there. Obviously, they're there by, their ability and stuff like that. But just in terms of like, when you play that group stage, it's normally down to your home and away fixtures with the 2 top teams. And then you can normally like adjust your squad a little bit when you're playing away or playing at home to the likes of those smaller teams. Or you could be already qualified, so it's not that important. You've already won the group, so you could have 2 games to spare where you can just blood the youngsters or do whatever you need to do. You're not going to get that opportunity in this new format.
You're not, no. And like it's a format that it just really has it really benefits the rich and successful clubs, and it is almost impossible for the likes of another Leicester. Like I'm a traditionalist. Obviously the money has to be made in the game, but like it is really disgusting now for me at this stage of the races. I love Everton. I love the history of my club. I love the past. But a lot of what's going on now is fucking disgusting, because it is just all money. It is all greed. It is a monopoly. You see the teams that benefits, and they're opening it up now to, like, there was talk of top 6 and that'll qualify now as well. So that means that if Liverpool have a bad season, if Man United have a bad season and they finish 5th or 6th, they're not penalised. And that means the likes of, we'll say, on that season, we'll say if a Man United and a Liverpool didn't get through and Everton and a Spurs got through in their stead, that there's no advantage to those teams in the money that they're going to make by performing in that competition compared to the money that Liverpool would lose. And that it's very imbalanced. It's you've the same teams winning the whole time. It's like the leagues now. I mean, the Premier League is fantastic because anybody can win it, but like the Bundesliga is so goddamn boring, guys. I mean, there's 1 or 2 good teams in it, but it is a boring competition. The Spanish La Liga is pretty boring. The Dutch league is pretty boring. The Belgian league, the French league is crap. The Italian league isn't too bad, but like, what do we want? It's just like, it really irritates me. Like sometimes I'm like, fuck football. I'm not gonna watch football anymore. It's bullshit. Like what is it, a business? So like it really irks me when I see things like that done. Like what I think it was Craig said there. It's such a beautiful thing. Thrown it into take it out. We're playing Bayern Munich home and away. We might win, we might lose. The next game we might be up against fucking AC Milan. And it's the fans want that. The fans want that as well. The fans don't want an extra 4 games a season. The fans don't even want an extra 10. They don't want group stages that have 10 games. They don't. The excitement is gone. There's no excitement in the Champions League until now, until last 16. Up to that, it's just a pain in the hole, you know? Anyway, sorry.
What happens to the team who gets toured in the usual situation in the Europa spot? What happens in that situation? Is that just done away with altogether, completely scrapped?
Yeah.
Back or into the Europa League, you know?
I presume they'd have a mechanism for filtering it down, but it's like when you see the way the Champions League has evolved with UEFA, they kind of know already who they want in the quarters and the semis and the final. You know, they haven't
predetermined.
There's an agenda there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's only once in a blue moon that, you know, like a Monaco comes up, or a PSV, or a Dortmund or something like that. You know, rarely
Then
happens.
their assets are stripped.
Yeah, but
the following season.
Yeah, you know well, like I mean, like most of us here could nearly predict by and large, you know, what the final 8 teams are going to be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, give or take 1 or 2 teams, maybe. You know,
and they also know that as well.
Why don't they? But why don't they do what they done before, when it was the European Cup, where it was the 16 best teams on the planet? I just throw them all in. Why don't, if they're going to add more teams into it, why don't they give it that bit of, like the FA Cup, the magic of the draw? Just throw every single team, instead of having the group stages, just play as everyone just into the hat. And you could have Liverpool versus Man United in the first round of the Champions League. Like,
I suppose the risk is that you go with the first round draw, and Barcelona, let's say you can't draw your own country. Let's say Barcelona draw PSV, Liverpool draw Bayern Munich, and all of a sudden 8 or 10 of your top draw teams in terms of your broadcast and revenue rights are gone out of the competition in the first round. And the next thing, you get to a stage where you're looking at the semi-finals and it's PSV versus AEK Athens or something like that, and like the broadcast and revenue rights ain't worth diddly squat. You know what I mean? So that's what they fear. The fear is that, like, that's what they're relinquishing. That's why they set up the whole thing, and they brought in this whole seeded thing, so teams can avoid each other until the broadcast and money is rolling in.
Like a security blanket, isn't it? It's like an insurance.
Does anybody know how long this has been in the pipeline to change this? Has it been 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
Isn't it the past 3 or 4 years or something like that?
No,
they've been talking about this.
This is their reaction to the proposed breakaway Super League. That's what. So what they've done is they've launched this to counteract the Super League thing, because what they're saying is, for the bigger clubs out there, they're going to get a lot more broadcasting revenue, which in this current climate is really, really important, because it's really their only revenue stream apart from merchandise. They've lost out on match day and all that stuff. So this is for the teams. For the clubs, I should say, in terms of money terms, it looks better for them. In terms of the players and the managers and the squads, it's not a great decision. And it does stink of a money grab. But it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. It's not coming until 2024 either, so it'll be interesting. I'm sure there'll be a few tweaks and changes on the way as well.
It'll be interesting to see as well regarding financial fair play. If this is going to be coming into the play, you're going to have the likes of Juventus, Real Madrid, Man City. Who's to say Liverpool might have one of these sheiks owning the club and have more money than sense, and you'll go out and you'll buy the 25 best players that you can get, and like your second team are better, as good as your first team, your third team are as good as your first team, and then you have the lesser teams that are coming in and just won't have a chance. So you might see that being eased, you know, a couple of we're going to struggle trying to play those extra few games. You've got to give us a bit of leeway where we can bring in the extra 3 or 4 players. You know what I mean?
Financial fair play at this stage is well dead and buried. Looking at what
Yeah.
went on with City
Yeah.
and what goes on with PSG and Barca and all these other clubs. None of these teams are being punished in any way for financial fair play.
It's not
You know what I
getting a
mean?
cut of it.
Yeah, but I mean, you're
Yeah.
going. What are you doing? You're going out and you're fining City 3 million, and they're looking, going, yeah, hang on, we'll just give you the proceeds off last match day as scarves. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's embarrassing, really. You know what I mean? And then they go and appeal it, and they win the appeal, and they don't even have to pay it. You know what I mean? So it's listen, this financial fair play. It's a cloud to give smaller teams hope and to show that the game is being played in the essence of fair play. But it's not being played in the essence of fair play if AEK Athens are playing PSG and PSG's front line is worth $1 billion, and AEK Athens' whole squad is worth about 4.5 million. You know what I mean? So it's not being played in the spirit of fair play. So, like,
They got there the same way by winning the league title is less ethically.
financial fair play will be a topic that will be discussed on this show in the future, no doubt about it. So then let's talk about yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just on that. Does this work in a post-COVID world though? Like, you're traveling, you're talking like
God
10
knows.
different way.
God
Exactly,
knows.
10 different away games. Like, is that gonna, the COVID's not gonna go away next year, the year after. So
Yeah.
how does this work going forward when you can't even travel to that country now?
Yeah, but I think next season fans will be back in the ground, stuff like that. With the rollout of the vaccines across Europe and stuff like that, surely to God, things are going to come back to some sort of new normality. You know what I mean? Because, like, I mean, what are they going to do? Say that you can't go to games, you can't travel into countries when everyone's vaccinated? So what's the point in taking the vaccine then? You know what I mean? So, like, you would assume from, you know, around August, September that, like, a fair percentage of Europe will be vaccinated. Although, you know, in terms of Ireland, I wouldn't hold any truth to that. They're so slow. And stuff, you know what I mean? But in terms of football, I would say next season, you know, there should be fans back in grounds. You should be able to travel to most of the countries involved in football and stuff like that. So I'd be surprised if it wasn't. But moving on to Brentford. Brentford's players had a meeting there during the week, and they decided that I think it was the Swansea game yesterday, they decided they were going to abandon taking the knee in support of Black Lives Matter, and that they felt that the taking of the knee had lost its impact, and they wanted to channel their resources elsewhere in support of Black Lives Matter. Con, what was your thinking on that?
I think I suppose it's a collective decision by a group of adults who have free will, and it's their choice if they want to do it. I don't know. I definitely think it's certainly in the zeitgeist at the moment, and I think it would it'll probably cause more ripples in the water than smoothing it out. Is particularly if their reason for doing it is they think that it's lost its impact and that they're going to bring resources elsewhere to help the cause. I think, why don't you just do that anyway? All you're fucking doing is kneeling down, like, do you know what I mean? In support of people who, you know, need your help. Like, that's literally all you're doing. So, yeah, just thinking as I talk, I think it's a load of bollocks. Fuck them.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one for me in terms of, because I look at it and I go, I'd rather see clubs and I'd rather see players, you know, demonstrating their support for Black Lives Matter out in the community where it counts, and, you know, trying to drive change through those areas than essentially taking the knee. Because you know, there's kind of at times you look at it and you go, you know, is it really bearing the fruit that it should? Or, you know, if these players spent their time out in the community, traveling around to schools, you know, targeting the younger generation and stuff like that, and saying, you know, hammering home the Black Lives Matter message at that early stage, so we grow up in an environment where this is no longer an issue. You know what I mean?
Niall, to be fair, like, if you're taking the knee on television that has been beamed into millions and millions of people's homes, and young kids go, why are that team not kneeling down with their hands up? And if my kids say it to me, I'll say, well, do you know why they're doing that now? They're doing that in support of Black people who have been subjected to vile racism or whatever way I want to explain that to my small kids.
Yeah.
But, like, it is being beamed into television. There isn't, like, all and also it takes, what does it take to kneel down? It takes 10 seconds, 20 seconds. It is literally nothing. And I would also agree with you. Go out and get into the community anyway. You know, they're being like, again, it's been brought up tonight. These are multi-millionaire players. You know, maybe part of their contract should be that they should have to do, 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 hours community service, a week. I can't see anyone not wanting to do that. But I think they should continue to kneel anyway.
See, I think in the age of social media, I think if they put more focus in terms of, giving us a greater insight into the inner workings of a club and what they do. Like, the way at Christmas time, a lot of clubs post videos where they go around to all the hospitals and they do all that charity, great work and all. I mean, they're doing brilliant work all year long. Yeah, it's only in these festive times or holiday times we get to see that little insight into it. But if they broadcasted more of that, I wonder would the younger generation who they're trying to influence a lot really in terms of this, would that potentially have a greater impact than, because you see the knee being taken every week, every game, and it's kind of like, does it hold that real sort of thing? Or if you sat down and you sat down and your kids on social media were able to go and see, well, there's Jordan Henderson or Mo Salah and Sadio Mane, and they're going into this school and they're meeting with these classes and they're driving that, that Black Lives Matter message home and stuff like that. And all the clubs were doing that. So like, all your fan base, because remember, if all the clubs are at it and we all follow all our individual clubs, that message spreads far wider, I think, than people looking at that and going, okay, here's guys taking the knee. It is a symbol for the movement, but does it have the impact that it should?
But like, okay, that's, and I think that's a good point to a certain extent. But if Jordan Henderson and Sadio Mane go to Hoxett into the primary school there, and give a great demonstration on why Black Lives Matter or anti-racism or whatever, how is that going to help anybody who's in national school in Leitrim in Ireland? That's why.
Yeah, well, I presume you'd have to look at it as well, even from like, this is a totality thing. So you'd have to look at it from international football. You'd have to look at it from League of Ireland. You'd have to look at it from everything. I mean, like, I'm not saying don't continue with taking the knee. I think it's really, really important and it is a symbol for the movement. But I just wonder if the symbol of that movement bears fruit when it goes out into, the real aspects of the matter, if you like.
Yeah.
But you've also got to remember, like, you've got black players coming out and saying, look, we're not wasting our time with this anymore. Like, Zaha's kind of pissed off about too. Les Ferdinand, he's like, why do black players need to take a knee to signify that, like, support those black people? Like, I'm completely with the idea. I completely support the idea. But I just think it doesn't need to be every single week. At the start, there was like a big, massive impact. It was like across the horizon in all sports. Like the black players coming out, it's really that's what brought it home to me. Like, they're coming out and saying, like, we don't need to do this every week. There is better things we can do than taking a knee. Like, I completely agree with Cornelius saying as well. Like, it takes 10 fucking seconds to kneel down and stand back up. You've got lads with the salute and all, but surely there's something better, something like better than taking the knee that they can do. There's a bigger picture to all this. Going to the schools, going into like the majority black community, stuff like that. Like, I just think it's wearing off now. Like, Les Ferdinand was the first person to come out and say, he was like, why do black people need to take a knee looking for support? Like, we know we're black, we're proud of being black. Fuck yous if you're going to be racist about it. Like, I just think there should be some. They've had what now? This is since the start of the season. What, 7 months? Surely there's something now that they can say, right, well, we're moving on to this now. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I suppose it's like every movement, isn't it? Like, sometimes it needs to evolve in order to continue its impact and be successful.
Yeah.
So maybe they could look at doing something different at the start of a match, instead of taking the knee. That would still symbolize the Black Lives Matter movement and get the symbol home. Mark, what do you think?
Like, obviously it's not a decision they've taken lightly. Obviously because they're black players and a big black fan base where they are in London and stuff, just outside of London. But like, at the end of the day, taking the knee is brilliant and all, but more action has to be done off the pitch for the fans. I know we're going to talk about it, like the SA and stuff like that. social media is a big part of it as well. We need to start seeing arrests like Anthony Martial. I know we had a bad game yesterday, and we've talked about it here. We can say, but to bring that racial thing into it is an absolute disgrace. And the more, like the FA are only getting involved because the whole movement and stuff. Like it's like over here, the FA, they send out videos when of how parents should be on the sidelines and stuff like that. It's just like they're taking a box. Do you know what I mean? They're taking a box for them and saying, right, no, that's done with now. To me, you need to see more action off the pitch, people being arrested and people being put behind bars for what's going on,
Yeah, I think until you have like serious, one of the things that I noted this week was the FA wrote a letter directly to the social media companies asking them to figure out how to take some action based on this. But until there is serious penalties for that type of thing and action is taken every single time when it happens, and the social media companies get heavily involved in this and go, we're not going to tolerate this either. We're gonna put in safeguards against this. No different than safeguards you'd put in for children on the internet and stuff like that, parental controls and stuff like that. But at a different kind of level and try and monitor that. But it was interesting that the FA wrote directly to the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it was, and got onto them and said, this is unacceptable anymore. And what role are you guys going to play in it?
And no, you're right, but why? It's 2021. We're in February 2021. Why are the FA only writing to these social media outlets now? This should have been done years ago. Remember how long is Kick It Out going? I know Black Lives Matter is a new movement. Kick It Out was here in early 2000s, mid 2000s. Like, I know social media is getting bigger and bigger, but it's 2021. Why are they only doing this now?
Yeah, they don't like it. Let's be real. Like, racism is never going to go away. The people at the higher echelons, are sitting down like, right, what can we do next? The FA and all blah blah. They're doing what they can to stay relevant in the matter. You know what I mean? Like, let's write to the social medias and then plaster that all over everything that the FA have been involved again. Blah blah blah. Like, let's be real. It's a justice system as well. Like, if your man who abused Ian Wright, I had an argument, well, not an argument with my father, but when I said it, I was like, oh, your man got away with that. He was like, he's only a kid. He made a mistake. You don't want to tarnish the rest of his life with a criminal record. The whole idea of this is, you get racially abused, you get fucking locked up, you get your criminal record. You can't be like, he's only 19, he's 20. When I was 19 and 20, I was out working a full-time fucking job because I had to hand me parents money at the end of the week. So this little prick who's going on like, oh, you're a monkey this and you're a monkey that and you're black bastard this and you're black bastard, sorry for the language. Fuck him. He doesn't deserve to walk into a court and like Ian Wright's to look at that and basically we didn't want to give him a criminal record. He's his whole life ahead of him. Ian Wright worked his bollocks off. He was in prison. You know what I mean? He like the likes of Ian Wright, Viv Anderson, those boys back then, like, we think racism is bad now in football. Back then was fucking horrific. So for him to see now, as Mark said, it's 2021. Like, what are they doing about this? The justice system needs to be a lot stricter on these guys as well and say, you know what? Yeah, you're 19, you're 20, but look, you have a criminal record now. You're going to prison for 30 days. You won't do it again.
Yeah, I think it's as well with social media as well. When you think about the racism around football, it's really moved from the terraces to social media because people out there think it's anonymous. So I think until we get to a stage with social media that it's very plain, it's not anonymous. You can find out who it is. You can track it down. You can use that in court. You can really hit a home that this is unacceptable anymore. And when you do this to 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 people, those other people will get the message eventually, and then it will stop. That's the
what about with social media, though? If you're setting up a profile, you have to, like with Revolut, you have to take a picture of your passport, send up social media profiles. There's your passport. So none of this, what's your username? DJ 4785 with a blank picture. Who's that guy? No idea. Go to his account details. There's his passport. Please go to his house. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see what the social media company's response is to the FA in terms of what they're going to come back with.
Get more moderators to cover, a post where you can't just post something. It has to be, accepted.
I'd say it has to be a thing where if you do, if you're the kind of horrible person that's inclined to post that stuff, that, like, as Dean says, your name is going to be on it. It's going to be fully trackable and traceable. There's going to be no question in a court of law. They're going to hand out the maximum punishment, and these guys will eventually get the message. But it has to be followed through on, and like, it has to be policed, and that involves the FA, it involves, the authorities, it involves the social media companies. They all have to get together to put this together, and they all have to be singing off the one hymn sheet. Otherwise, if one of it falls down, well, then, it's very hard to implement it, and that's why, getting on to, we can move on now to sort of have a look at the Premier League's No Room to Racism. This is their action plan that they've come out with. I had to look down through the main points of it. So, increased diversity in leadership positions, which I find, I'm trying to figure out how, as an action plan, that first line there, how you would implement that. Because I would assume, and this is a big assumption on my behalf, that when people are hiring people for positions, they hire the best person associated for that job with the best credentials, and never ever get concerned about skin color or ethnic race or anything like that. I mean, I find that baffling in 2021. That anyone in any position would not hire a person, based on the color of their skin, if they're the right person for the job and the most qualified person for the job. But I mean, clearly the FA is concerned and they believe this goes on. Graham, what you're thinking on that?
Yeah, it's a funny one at the minute. It's like okay, players are taking the knee, saluting and all that, but they're saying, yeah, I've been taking the knee for months and I have one bad game and I'm getting abused all over Twitter. So what's that all about? They want something done. They're not gonna play out with their skin every week to make sure they have a good game every week because I was getting battered on Twitter there last week. I'm gonna make sure I have a good game so I don't get any abuse this week. They need to just cut it out altogether.
Yeah.
It's the same. I have a couple of groups I follow on Facebook, and like they all have admins. You want to post something, it goes to the admin to be accepted or not. So I think all Twitter and all these Instagrams, they need an administrator. Like if you want to post something, it needs to get their approval.
Yeah, I think the problem with that, Graham, is, you can have, millions of posts being posted every day, and how the hell are you supposed to admin that? I think, they're also talking about increasing representation of coaches across these groups as well. And again, very similar to the leadership positions. You know what I mean? I fundamentally, I find it hard that a club, would go out there looking for a coach for a position, and for that job not to be offered to a person based on the color of his skin if he is qualified and suitable for the position. It just staggers me, like some of these things. And my fear with these things is when someone puts out an action plan, for me, for that action plan to be successful, it has to be able to be implemented and it has to be able to be measured in order to see the success of it. And I'm failing to see how you measure this. How do you like our club's all going to be reporting back to the FA now that, like, we put this position up, we interviewed these 5 guys, this guy or this girl got this position based on this, and this. And like, are they going to report all that back? Is this the way it's going to go? I just don't see it. Craig,
it's almost kind of forcing a team to hire someone of a certain skin color or a certain sex. It's almost forcing that. They might not be good enough for the job, but they feel like they have to be diverse in the current situation of what's going on.
Yeah. Then the other point they brought up, Dane, you might want to look at this one. Every player has the opportunity to achieve their potential inside and outside of football. Now that sounds great, and
I gotta go, guys.
No bother, Con. See you soon.
There you go.
Talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
man.
Bye.
But again, we know with football, at grassroots level of football, there's protocols there at clubs to say that, all these players get equal time on the pitch, they all get included, all these kind of things. There's guidelines there for all that sort of thing. But I think when you kind of get up to that FA's level and you start moving into, underage and, semi-professional, all that kind of thing, in these places, the cream then rises to the top. The cream rises to the top, and then eventually, like, players fall off and players excel and move on to be professional and get signed in professional contracts and stuff like that. Again, I think at grassroots level, I think from dealing with my own club, all clubs have a protocol there. Mark would know this from the FAI as well, that says that, all players are supposed to, at underage level, supposed to get X amount of minutes. There's supposed to be fair play. All kids are supposed to be included equally, all this kind of thing. You know what I mean? And we implement that as coaches as much as we can at local level. But when you move up into the, professional game or the semi-professional game, that's a cutthroat world, really, when it comes to players.
Yeah. She had your man, what's his name, that played for Liverpool, young lad. He was talking about when him and Dan Cleary were in training and they knew that Liverpool were down a couple of short centre backs and they were looking at, it's going to be me or you going in. So your man was like, right, I'm going to go and do this cunt,
Yeah, he admitted that as well, didn't he? He admitted that he purposely.
Yeah, and look where his career is now. Tom Brewitt, I think Tom Brewitt.
Remember that, yeah.
Like what Niall said is spot on. Like, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and if you haven't got bigger teeth than me, like, I'm taking your place. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and so I mean, is football not basically the most competitive sport in the world when you think about it?
With the money that's in it, now, like other than the NFL and the NBA and the baseball league and stuff like that, with the money that's in it now, a lot of these guys haven't got a brain cell to their name. So, like, if you're only good at football, you're gonna do everything to make ends meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Mark, here's a good one for you. You touched on it earlier. Support clubs in setting a framework and clear targets to embed equality, diversity, and inclusion across their organisation. That would be another one there that I would suggest. How is that already not in place in every single club?
Yeah, it should be. Like, you're trying to teach them from grassroots level everything about the game and including that. Like, it was interesting when you were talking there. I was thinking about a documentary I watched there a few years ago on BBC Three. Zach Knight was on it, and they asked him, when you retire, do you want to become a manager? And he said no. He says, look around, how many black managers are there in the game? And I think at the time there was only Chris Hughton, really, I think he might have been managing Newcastle or something at the time. There's not enough, like, managers out there. You've had the likes of Paul Ince that come in and out of the game as well, but, like, this has to be drilled in, like I said, at grassroots level. There is a certain person out there, Dane touched on it earlier, from the 80s, 90s, that just, you can't change people like that as much as you want it, but you can definitely teach the youth from grassroots level, and that's what they should. Like I said, at 2021, this should have been done years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll certainly keep our eye on the this FA action plan and see how it's implemented and how it works and how they report back on it. Be very interesting to see how successful it is. So then our last topic really to touch on is Liverpool.
Thanks, Niall. Yeah,
lovely way to wrap it up, folks.
No, but I mean, we've already spoken at length about injuries. We've already spoken at length about the impact COVID has had in the game. We've already spoke about no fans in the stadium. I know, Dean, you touched on it last week, the impact it was having. But I mean, realistically, there's a time that those Liverpool players ponied up and stood up and were accountable for themselves on the pitch now and, really put their best foot forward instead of hiding behind this curtain veil of, expectations of the fans, which is, the expectation of Liverpool fans has always been huge. This is not a new thing, even when we weren't that good and we weren't successful, we still had a huge fan expectation, right or wrong. Dane, what you thinking on that in terms of, is the time Liverpool, got off the horse and got going again, or what's the story?
Yeah, the very first podcast I came on, I think it was before or after the City game, and I was saying to you, like, you can write there, you can list the injuries, you can talk about one-off bad performances. It isn't a blip anymore, you know what I mean? Like, people are asking questions like, is there problems in-house? Does Klopp want to go? Like, stuff like that. Like, the Salah looks like he doesn't want to be there at all. Like, I said to Cornelius about the whole Henderson and Fabinho playing centre half. Like, it's all well and good short term, but when you're coming up to, like, City said the other night, if City went the rest of the season unbeaten and won the Champions League, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think Barcelona are on a downward slope. I don't think Madrid have that appeal anymore. Like, I'm watching Bayern Munich are losing 3-2 here, but they're at their only come back from Japan. Like, I do think if City went the rest of the season like unbeaten and won the Champions League, I wouldn't be surprised. But with Liverpool and how things are going, I just think the players need to suck it up now. I don't want to. You were saying the other night, I'm sick of fans saying the performance was embarrassing and they're not real fans. And you look at what the team has given us in the last 2 to 3 years. But like, I do think, as much as this hurts, like if Klopp was to leave tomorrow, I'd be absolutely devastated. He's been the best thing since I started supporting Liverpool. He's the best thing that has ever happened to the club. I do think part of the problem is FSG and the whole running a business thing. I was watching, as soon as that game was finished, I went straight on to the old hashtag FSG out and the hashtag LFC Twitter and all. You get a lot of fans like who are baseball fans, who are Red Sox fans coming on and saying, look, Liverpool fans, this is the way things are going to go. These guys, they've won a Champions League, they've won a league. It's all about profit now. We're not going to have a squad like City with owners like FSG. I'm not being fickle and saying, oh, FSG need to go. I want someone who owns City to come in and buy us. But let's be real, right? You're a Liverpool fan, Niall. Craig, you're a Liverpool fan. Dean, you're a Liverpool fan. If we got owners like City, right, would you rather we had a squad like City and could challenge for the league every year and like they're doing now, probably going to steamroll everyone and go and win the league? Or would you rather have the whole business model and have a squad like we do now and things like what's happening now happen and we'd probably win a league once every 5 or 6 years? Which would you rather?
The business model.
I'll answer it for you. You'd rather have a squad like City's and win the league every year and have fans of rival teams saying, oh, but you bought the league. I'd fucking love to be in City's position where you have, like, you've lads on the bench who are, like, you hear all this about Liverpool. He doesn't want to ruin the harmony in the team. Did Ferguson, did he ruin the harmony in the team? You have to be ruthless in this game. So it's either Klopp's not being ruthless or FSG won't back Klopp to the fullest.
I suppose when you're looking at it, Craig, you might want to take this one up. I mean, it was, we were on the brink of disaster when FSG came in and more or less saved us, if you like, you know what I mean? I think from my point of view as a fan, and Craig might touch on it as well, I like the success of my club to mean something. I don't want to be, I don't want to necessarily be that club that goes out and buys Neymar, buys Mbappe, buys Lewandowski, buys Alaba, buys all these players and steamrolls the league 5, 6, 10 years on the trot. I don't think that reaps the meaning in the heart of a fan the same. You know what I mean? Like Man City fans don't celebrate their success the same way United and Liverpool fans do, where it means something to them in terms of history, in terms of heart. We've had to wait a long time to have success again. So obviously that plays into it from a nostalgia point of view. Craig, what's your thinking on it?
Yeah, I do agree. I think our success is very genuine as well. When we thrive on success, as in, like, we wait a long time for it, but we're not like impatient, and we're not like, like the shutters are in front of our eyes. We do wait it out and we're loyal. So when we get to success like we've been, as I said it before, we've been, like, the last 3 years, we've been absolutely spoiled. But we've got there through hard work and through merit. It hasn't been handed to us. Klopp's put a system in place and the lads have gone above and beyond with it. It hasn't just happened overnight. Like, it's been, when Rafa just missed out on the title, fucking hell, Brendan just missed out. You were thinking, especially for me, like, what the fuck is it going to take? Like, and Jurgen so close right behind City with the points tally. Then we won it. Then we won Champions League. Then we won the Club World Cup. Could have had 2 Champions Leagues, but it's been all genuine and it's been real and it's been great. Regarding Jurgen, I think taking the football away from him no one can understand probably when you look at the whole week and the reflection of his mother passing, couldn't go to the funeral. Not using that as in it's to do with the football, but you take everything into consideration. You probably weren't taking that into consideration before. When you can't even go to your mother's funeral, when you're going to face the media, you're still going to games. The media are on your back before the game. The media are on your back after the game. I would like him to take a step away from the media for a little while and let his assistant Pep take over for a bit, just to give him a bit of breathing space and just to get him maybe a bit more relaxed. I think it'd be good for himself.
The only thing I'd be concerned about that is we all know how vile the English media can be.
Like vultures.
And you know what I mean? If he does do that, you know, they're just going to run story after story after story because they think they have him and are ruthless.
Because
And that's the real problem with it.
You know? Before, but you see how frustrated he was getting in recent weeks with the media. Never was like that, you know.
I suppose, Dane Malone, as a business, your minimum expectation is that you run your company well and you make a profit. And you have to be seen to do that. So FSG, they're not drenched in money the way like the oil barons of Man City are, you know what I mean? They can't just toss money away. They do have to report back. They do have accounts. And we've seen some of the intrusions into, let's say, Man City's financial affairs have been interesting, to say the least. What you're thinking from a Liverpool point of view?
Look, I think in business, at the end of the day, eventually you do have to put your money in your pocket. And that's the truth of it. Obviously, I don't agree with the way City have done it over the past few years. They went down and just bought the whole market up. And that's what they've done. They've literally round football, if you look at it. And you understand Dane's argument on saying that you want to win Premier League trophies. But at Liverpool, it's been gradual. Year after year after year, we've just gotten better and better and better. And maybe this year, they do have to put their hand in the pocket and say, right, we need players. When you look at that...
No, go on, finish there, Dane. You finish, go on.
When you look at that front three, Mane, Firmino, Salah's been the only one that's been consistent this season. Mane has his games. Firmino's just gone, dirt. And I don't know whether Dean's agreement on that, Craig, but he's been toxic. Jota came in, was phenomenal in the team. That was a great signing for us. But I think this summer they have to put their hands in the pocket and say, right, we need players.
That's basically all I was saying. Like when I was talking about the whole, like you want FSG to spend the money. I don't want Neymar. I don't want Mbappe. They're dream signings that only the likes of PSG or Real Madrid could buy. All I'm saying is, like, you've Origi, no sell-on value. Oxlade-Chamberlain's probably not going to have any sell-on value. I think by the time Shaqiri leaves, it might be on a free. Matip...
Wijnaldum, sadly, could be a fucking free.
Yeah,
he's gone, isn't he?
Matip is injury-prone, so what are you going to sell? What are you going to get trying to sell Matip? I know, like, it's all... Well, you know, if he's injury prone and these things happen in football, all I'm saying is when we won the Champions League, right, we built on that slightly. But when we won the league, I said to you in the summer, Niall, I can't wait. Like, we're going to bring in this guy, we're going to bring in that guy. Like, all I wanted was to build on that. Bring in three or four class players who are going to push the team on. We brought Jota in. And the difference he made off the bat, because it wasn't that he was giving other players that fear of, look, this fella is working his nuts off in training, I could be forced out. He was put into the team and he was forcing players out, because it wasn't a case of, look, this guy's just coming in and like Mo might be having a couple of bad games and Jota's going to come in. Like, he came in and he worked his bollocks off. Regarding Firmino, Dean, he's my favourite player. I won't get on any, well, unless it's basically someone who's just given up on the short, I won't get on their case. If someone's really, really bad, like Origi, I'm not going to like sit here and like say, oh, fuck him, fuck this, that. He doesn't deserve to be at Liverpool. I think he's kind of stealing a living. But Firmino, he's been the workhorse in that team, like the absolute engine up front for the last 3 years. And I think it's just being magnified now because we're not doing so great in the league. That, like, who can we point the finger at? Well, Salah's still scoring. Mane has a few goals. So let's blame Firmino. Same in the middle of the park. You know what I mean? Like, you always have the easy targets in the team. And I've had this out with Liverpool fans all the time. When we perform bad, people look for certain players to point out, but they'll never turn around and say, hold on, Van Dijk was fucking shy. Hold on, Salah didn't try whatsoever. Look at Henderson, he had a bad game. It's always the go-to guys. Fans need to put their hands up and say, you know, the players that we expected to step up when we needed them haven't stepped up when we needed them.
That's the truth. They're playing for Liverpool at the end of the day. And, sorry, you have to ask you to play this week from the start. Is that all right? And I look like, what? It's the truth. You're getting a free fucking wage at our club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark, what you're thinking? I mean, you obviously follow United yourself and Anthony, and they're obviously heavily financed through debt as well with the Glazers. So you're not in a dissimilar position in terms of you have owners who have to run a business as a business, but they've gone kind of a different route where they finance it through debt and they put us in a lot of debt. But in terms of there's a lot of talk about United and their owners as well. And, again, it's easy to point fingers at owners as well and stuff like that. But I mean, between FSG and between the Glazers, they have gone out. They have spent money. There's no doubt about it. What you're thinking?
They're spending money, and then they're spending money on the right players to come in and playing a certain system and stuff like that. Just going back to what Dean said, something earlier on, I just wanted to touch on was, remember you were saying about Henderson and I think it was Allison or something in-house fighting and all. Yeah. I'd like to see that. It's passion. It's showing passion. I'd love to see some Harry Maguire grab someone with a scruff of neck and have a go at him. Do you know what I mean? To me, looking at you, obviously you are unlucky with injuries, but there's a slight case of, some teams are sussing out systems that you're playing, like Burnley and the West Broms, like these kind of so-called smaller teams are sussing out how to play against you, and they know where to hit you now, especially with the injuries. But to me, it's only a blip. You will get back. But going back to what you said, Niall, like the money the Glazers have spent, like, and what they're doing is like, we spent 75-80 million on Harry Maguire, and I'll keep going back to him. But that, how many young centre halves would you have bought for that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a real. It is a real conundrum when you're trying to balance, the level of success that you deserve versus, keeping the business on the proper financial footing. You know what I mean? It's, what do? You go out and you spend $250 million on 2 players and the next thing is just disaster or something like that, so you have to really, it's a real balance. I mean, the one thing I'd say about Liverpool with Mike Edwards, he's doing an outstanding job.
Robbing people.
I mean, that guy is unbelievable. And in fairness, we have said as well, like the January window, even though we got hammered with these injuries, it's really not the time to be going out and buying players because you don't really get that pool of players that you really want. You know what I mean? Like we've brought in Ben Davis and brought in Kabak, and I hope both of them are really, really successful. You know what I mean? But you always get the feeling if this had happened at the end of last season and we had that summer to go in and go for transfers and stuff like that, we probably would have went in for a Koulibaly or an Upamecano or, something like that. You know what I mean? Like we probably wouldn't have looked at Kabak or Ben Davis, No disrespect to them, Graham, what you're thinking? I mean, you follow a club that just won't they won't even tip people at a restaurant. No. I mean, that type. You're living with this all the time. I mean, Levy just will not spend money. Like he just, and when he does spend, it's just a marketing tool.
Yeah. It's the same every year. It's like Levy will say to whoever the manager is, like, oh, okay, there's not enough money for a transfer this year. You might get 10 million, and some managers will turn around and go, okay, but Mourinho was kind of like that manager this year. He was like, give me a transfer budget because we need it. But like I was saying earlier, like we'd love to be up there with City and United to spend the millions. But it's just that our owners, they won't accept anybody from buying the club because we have had previous goals in previous years to be taken over, but it's just that the owner of the club just doesn't want us to sell.
Well, I think if I was the owner of a solid Premiership club at the moment with the way things are going, I wouldn't be in a hurry to sell it either because it seems to be it's the only real functioning business out there at the moment. And if you think about football,
Well, it only comes down to what age the owner is. Like if he's near it, he wants to get out of football, he wants to sell the club. Maybe then, but maybe he's thinking like he has a few years left in him. He'll hold on to the club, and then when he's near retirement, say this would be a nice retirement, a few million, buy a nice house.
I don't think Levy's waiting on his retirement out of Spurs somehow. That guy still has his communion money. Will you stop?
No. Daniel Levy is only the chairman, and we have an owner over Levy. So
yeah, but Levy is the bank.
He runs the show, doesn't he?
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
He said he's the one who says, "Oh, you're only getting 50 million this year."
And it's going to be an interesting recipe as well when you have Daniel Levy telling Jose Mourinho no, because we know what's happened in the past.
Well, we need the fans to come back because we have that the partnership with the NFL, so we're not getting any games in our new stadium because there's no fans. So that's what we're waiting on, and it could be another year, another year and a half till we get fans back.
So Harry Kane and son for the touchdown, yeah? That's your thinking.
Touchdown out of here.
Well, lads, as always, it's been a great show. Always interesting topics and always interesting viewpoints. Again, I would say we're out on YouTube there, so subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. We're also on Anchor if you prefer the audio. Just to mention again, our sponsors for the show, Hogan Elite Trophy Hire, for all that beautiful shiny silverware for your event. And also Ella's Toys and Collectibles. Dean will hook you up there with 10% off if you're looking for Funkos or any kind of collectible items. Just launched this week, and he's now a sponsor of the show. So get on to Dean there on Facebook. He'll sort you out with whatever collectibles you're looking for. Lads, till next time, it's been emotional. Over and out.